Niigan, thanks so much for being with us today.
Miigwech, thanks for having me, Darryl.
So, it's been an unprecedented couple of weeks for the Assembly of First Nations, with many allegations being made. The AFN suspending the first woman national chief. What's your take on what's been unfolding so far?
So it's the biggest crisis in the 40-year history of the organization, and certainly the organization's slightly older, coming from the National Indian Brotherhood, but this is just a colossal embarrassment, and it's really a situation of a civil war, a democratically elected national chief who's been ousted rather unconstitutionally by staff and regional chiefs, and then regional chiefs who have had allegations of corruption and by the national chief on the other side.
All right, so we're less than a week away from the AFN's annual General Assembly, one that the AFN had said the national chief could not attend. At one point there was a resolution trying to overturn Archibald's election victory. What are you expecting at the AGA?
Well, I'm hearing from sources, rather well-up sources within the regional chief circles, that there's an actual security firm that's being told to keep her out of the meeting itself. It will be not a good look. It'll be, so many of the non-Indigenous world wants to believe that our governments are corrupt, wants to believe that we're not capable of handling governmental affairs. So much of these stereotypes are going to be seen on so many levels this weekend. And it's really a colossal failure on both sides, particularly by the national chief to not be able to bring people onto the side of her vision. And then on the other side, the regional chiefs who seem to just not want change in any direction. The AFN has been moving more and more towards regional control by the regional chiefs. And of course, that was under the years of Perry Bellegarde. And it seems that the regional chiefs just don't want to give up that control. And so we've really got a logjam situation. I just don't know a solution here other than a court battle.
Now, Niigan, you wrote in your column this week that this, quote, is an embarrassment and stain on what is supposed to be one of the most important Indigenous political organizations in the country, end quotes. Now, do you think there will be long-term harm to the credibility, of the AFN?
Well, it's not only harmful and, of course, embarrassing, but this was supposed to be the most progressive year in the AFN history. The first elected female national chief who had come in promising to provide transparency for the organization, to restructure what really has become an irrelevant old boys club in so many different ways. And the fact is that communities don't really get any representation in the AFN, never have, but particularly so in recent years when the national chief is working so closely with the federal government. Roseanne Archibald came in promising that that would change. And of course, a national chief position is always a weird position because you're really a spokesperson of a lobby group. You're not a government, you're a spokesperson. And so you're supposed to be able to work with people, and certainly Roseanne Archibald just hasn't been able to get people on her side. At the same time, I think the regional chiefs have not been able to work effectively or be able to give up some of their power. And so what we're going to see is a logjam, which will hurt this organization, where it is already seen as almost irrelevant by many of the member nations. People are dropping out of the AFN and are not seeing the movement that is needed. Certainly the autonomy and the movement towards sustainability, financial sustainability, to get away from governmental dollars and to start to stand on its own 2 feet as an organization. I mean, that's been the movement certainly of Métis National Council and the Manitoba Métis Federation as they've moved away from just relying on program dollars from the federal government. So the AFN just is going to be in that situation where they're going to be mired in more fights internally than to be able to work externally and represent the people, everyday First Nations people in some meaningful way as it continues to sort of move away from communities.
And lastly here, Niigan, your column also mentions the potential for the federal Liberal government looking bad here. Can you elaborate quickly on that?
Yeah, I mean, the situation is always that the federal government needs the AFN more than the AFN needs the federal government. And what I mean by that is that the federal government doesn't have a partner. They don't have a dance partner when it comes to consultation or program delivery or just photo ops to deliver on major political policy. If the AFN were to fall apart, the federal Liberals would have nobody to participate with and to appear at meetings with, and they would have to go to individual chiefs on individual First Nations or regional chiefs organizations. And so what that means is if the AFN is mired in infighting, it just won't be able to participate with the federal Liberals, which is perhaps why it's been accused, certainly Perry Bellegarde and some of the regional chiefs, of being just outright representations of the Liberal Party within the AFN itself. And I point out in my column that it's really problematized when you have regional chiefs who are not democratically elected by other chiefs, especially at the chiefs at large at the AFN, more just in their regions. And they are stopping the movements from a democratically elected national chief, good, bad, great, ugly, whether they agree with them or not. It is the national chief. This is the organization. If you're to follow democracy, then you would follow the views of the national chief to try to provoke change. And the fact that the regional chiefs just won't move on that direction, and many of them are Liberal Party stalwarts, suggests that there is a real mingling between the Liberal Party and certain forces within the AFN that's highly problematic.
All right, Niigan, we'll have to leave it there. Certainly appreciate your thoughts on all this.
Yeah, Miigwech, thanks so much.